You on hour two here. You're watching CNN. I'm Brooke Baldwin. First, the most powerful Democrat in Congress said the president of the United States was engaged in a cover-up. And now House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says President Trump is in need of a family intervention and, quote, not up to the task when it comes to making tough choices for the nation. Speaker Pelosi taking direct aim at President Trump on two things that matter most: his money and his manhood, as a feud between them enter a second day. Here now is the speaker in her own words.
He says it's because of cover-up, and I know that that strikes a chord with him. He knew the one court decision was getting into territory that he did not want touched, and they did not allow the Mueller investigation to go into the president's personal finances. The president has a bag of tricks, and the White House has a bag of tricks that they save for certain occasions. They don't necessarily apply to the occasion, but they're a distraction, which is his master of distraction. He tried to say it's because I said cover-up. We've been saying cover-up for a while. The president, again, stormed out. I think, first pound the table, walk out the door. What? Next time, have the TV cameras in there while I have my say. That didn't work for him either. And now this time, another temper tantrum. Again, I pray for the President of the United States. I wish that his family or his administration or his staff would have an intervention for the good of the country.
And that's just what she said in front of the cameras. CNN has learned that in a meeting with Democratic leadership, Speaker Pelosi described Trump's actions as, her words, villainous to the Constitution of the United States. We're going to talk about Pelosi versus Trump in just a second, but also today, the president's fight to keep his finances out of Democrats' hands and now out of the view of Americans is running into a roadblock. Actually, make that 3 roadblocks. The first 2 came compliments of the courts. In one case, a federal judge rejected Trump's request to block congressional subpoenas of his banking records. And now Deutsche Bank and Capital One could be forced to give them up. That is coming just a couple days after another federal judge ruled that an accounting firm must turn over accounting records from before Trump entered the White House. And there is the president's home state of New York, which passed a bill that will allow Congress to see the president's state tax returns, if lawmakers ask. But despite the setbacks, the president had nothing but kind words for the judiciary.
Do you view Congress as a co-equal branch of government, and do you respect their power of oversight?
I respect the courts, I respect Congress, I respect right here where we're standing. But what they've done is abuse.
Jennifer Rogers is a former federal prosecutor and a CNN legal analyst. So, Jennifer, we know of these different cases, one appeal is in the works. What's the likelihood any of these appeals go the president's way?
I don't think they will go the president's way. The problem is they're going to take time. So even though when you have a dispute between the 2 branches of government and the 3rd branch of judiciary has to solve that, and they really should move swiftly for that reason. When you're in the appellate courts, you get a 3-judge panel, so you have to get 3 judges to agree to handle it swiftly. It just takes more time. So I do think that ultimately on the law, the Congress will prevail. The question is how long.
Okay. I want to read you something that Preet Bharara said. He was the U.S. attorney for the Southern District until Trump fired him. Reacted this way on Twitter. Quote, "The courts are not just ruling against Trump. Courts are mocking his lawyers' arguments as they should." Is Preet right?
Well, mocking may be a little strong. I think that the court's opinions, the 2 that we've seen from the district court judges, have been very strong opinions. They have been clear opinions. They have not given any credence at all to the president's arguments. So, I think Preet's using a little liberty there with the word mocking, but there's no question that those judges are saying the president doesn't have a legal leg to stand on here.
All right. Jennifer Rogers, thank you very much. Let's go to Capitol Hill. With me now, Republican Senator John Kennedy. He is a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. So, Senator Kennedy, welcome back. How are you, sir?
I'm well, Brooke. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So, all right, Congress is at this standstill. Your colleague, Senator John Thune, a member of Senate Republican leadership, feels essentially like your hands are tied. Do you think that the president's making a mistake by shutting the door on working with Democrats?
Yes. And I don't think he means it. I think the president is very frustrated. I was listening to your show while I was waiting, Brooke. I heard the comments from Speaker Pelosi. I don't think those will help. Now, Speaker Pelosi is entitled to her opinion, and I respect her opinion. I try to cut her some slack because she's in a tough spot. I think her Democratic majority would like to impeach the president. I think the Speaker's against it because she knows it wouldn't be very popular with the American people. And the other problem the Speaker has, to be frank, she kind of has a shadow speaker in Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. So she's in a tough spot. But having said all that, the right course of action is not for each side to go to its respective corners. And as I said yesterday, not for both sides to act like 8-year-olds fighting in the back of a minivan, but sit down and work it out. And here's why. If this ends up in court, as it looks like it will, it becomes a zero-sum game. One or two things are going to happen. If Trump wins, the oversight authority of Congress is undermined. If the House leadership wins, then, in my opinion, anybody with a brain above a single-cell organism wouldn't want to run for president because Congress could take a look at everything, even the most intimate detail about your life, even before you were president.
But in the meantime, because of both the president and the Democrats and this, the fact that nothing's moving right now, according to the leader of your party, the truth is none of this. We've got a whole list of, things on the docket, pieces of legislation. None of it's getting done now.
Well,
this feud is having a real world impact on America. It is on y'all.
That's on us. And I said yesterday, I went to the floor of the Senate, and some of my colleagues are a little miffed at me, but I spoke the truth. We don't have to wait in Congress for the president's permission to legislate. There are plenty of issues in the Senate on which the Democrats and the Republicans have more in common than they don't. Prescription drug costs, reforming the National Emergency Act, net neutrality. Now, since I gave that speech yesterday, today we've already had one vote. So I talked yesterday about the need for us to vote on spam robocalls. Well, they did it this morning, and guess what? We only had one no vote. One no vote. And I'm proud of my colleagues. This afternoon, we're going to vote on a disaster recovery bill. I think it's going to pass. We don't have to wait on the president. The Senate needs, we need to be senators. We need to debate and decide, not stall and restall. And I'm proud of my colleagues today.
You are saying precisely what Americans want to hear, that, they elected you all for a reason to do the job. But let me take you back, Senator Kennedy. Okay. You mentioned Speaker Pelosi, and there seems to be this pattern. Speaker Pelosi, sure can push the president's buttons. And what do you think it is about Nancy Pelosi and this president? Why does she so get under his skin, do you think?
I really don't think that it's Speaker Pelosi in particular.
You don't?
I don't. I really don't. I think the president's just very frustrated. I think he feels like the House leadership is in bad faith. And I'll give you an example. The House Ways and Means chairman said, I need to see Trump's tax returns. The press, doing its job, said, why? He said, well, it will help me evaluate how well the IRS is auditing people. Now, nobody believes that. There's no American that believes that. That's very disingenuous. And I think the president feels like the House is in bad faith. The House feels like they're in good faith and they're just doing their job. The answer is not to hold everybody in the Western Hemisphere in contempt and go to court. The answer is to do what Bill Barr did with the House Judiciary Committee, sit down and try to work it out. This is not a new circumstance we find ourselves in. What's different this time is that both sides seem to be a little too close, and it's gotten a little too personal, and everybody just needs to calm down, take their meds, and try to work it out.
Okay, Senator Kennedy, and let me just also say I haven't heard those remarks, but most Democrats say that they do want to see the tax returns. Back on your point about House Ways and Means, they do want to see the tax returns to see if the president is compromised. Senator John Kennedy, I thank you very much.
Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you. Minutes from now, President Trump is expected to announce